Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Faith Communities Go Green in celebration of our 1 year of being together. My name is Justin Kershner. I work with the Jewish Community Relations Council of the Jewish Federation of Cincinnati. It's good to be with my fellow colleagues across the faith community here in Green Cincinnati and all of Greater Cincinnati, and all of you. So I'll start off with just an opening prayer. So if everyone wants to just begin by closing their eyes if they choose and taking a deep breath in and out. As Faith Communities Go Green celebrates 1 year of being together, may we take this moment to reflect on the successes we have had, the relationships we've built, and the stewardship of the environment in which we attend to. May we continue to drive forward this important work and welcome new friends and allies into this quest for sustainable communities in our region. May we give thanks for the opportunities we have had to care for creation, to provide hope in practice and in spirit, and to be fulfilled in this journey to go green. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Justin. We'll go to the next slide. And welcome, everyone. We're very glad you're here. We will be talking about our accomplishments so far and our projects being planned for the coming year. And as you listen, if anything resonates with you, we hope you will volunteer to get involved in areas that interest you. Feel free to add any questions or comments in the chat box anytime, and we will address them at the end. Thank you, Green Umbrella, for their support, and congratulations to Rashida. We just learned that Rashida is moving to an exciting new career opportunity. A special thank you, Rashida, our Green Umbrella liaison leader who has been guiding us throughout the year. Thank you for your support and insight. And with that, on the next slide, we will all send you our best wishes in your new job. Oh, you don't have the fireworks sounds. No sound. Continuing with exciting news, this meeting marks our group's first birthday. Our very first open meeting was last year on September 14th. For those who may not know just how far we've come, how much we've accomplished and grown in 1 year, we're kicking off today's event with a look at the progress we're celebrating and the momentum we are building. All our work has been accomplished by an amazing group of volunteers. Next slide. Barely over a year ago, in the summer of 2020, a small group of well-connected, brilliant community leaders volunteered together because of their desire to care for creation and their concern about the impending climate crisis. They hatched the idea for how people of all faiths could come together to advance environmental causes. We also welcome our newest member, Simone Best, to this group. So from left to right, starting with me, Joanne Gerson, and then Honest Malink, Pat Tim, Justin Kershner. Next row is our co-chair, James Buchanan, Simone Best, CJ Willie, and Rashida Manuel. Next slide. A virtual round of applause, and this we have applauding noise, so you all have to just clap for the noise to our founding team of creation for this group. Next slide. The first thing we did was define our purpose, stated in our mission statement, partnering with religious communities to create a more sustainable and equitable future for all by mobilizing their moral voice to reduce the risk of catastrophic climate change. Next slide. We created our guiding principles. In short, we strive to be fair, welcoming, and inclusive for everyone and all beliefs. The complete list of our principles is on our web page. Next slide. In 1 year, we have grown from 8 to 220 members. Next slide.
Oh.
Our members represent 15 different faiths and or denominations. The box on the right actually represents the numbers of members of each religion or denomination done in a cloud. Next slide. The diversity of our membership faith is among our most valued strength. Whatever faith or organization you belong to, we are glad to have you among our members to help put green initiatives at the forefront. Next slide. We have 54 passionate, talented, highly active volunteers creating webinars and programs to advance faith communities' efforts to protect the planet. Next slide. In our first year, we developed and hosted 3 live webinar broadcasts providing deep dive education and access to live questions and answers and discussions with experts about current topics. All 3 broadcasts were recorded and are available on demand for you to view on our website. Next slide. We have participated in 3 eco-challenge teams. The number of participants grew from 10 in the first team to 54 in the July team. Nearly 80 participants changed at least one habit or behavior to become better stewards of the earth. Next slide. The July team placed in the top 10% of this global eco-challenge, competing with teams from 53 countries. Next slide. The advocacy group issued their first action alert, Ohio Senate Bill 117. Through MailChimp and GU's Facebook page, we reached over 6,000 Green Umbrella members. Next slide. We created 3 working groups: advocacy, education, lifestyles, and facilities. Next slide. 3 remarkable members stepped up into volunteer leadership roles, creating 3 distinctive working groups. Next slide. They are Ariel Miller, who brings energy and experience and knowledge of state politics. Marianne Metcher and Becca Desai are the powerhouse duo, bringing enthusiasm and great ideas to change individual lifestyles. Ken Wright focuses on team building with his group that seeks to change the actual buildings we worship in. Next slide. So to talk about the advocacy group, advocacy has worked on with the executive director to provide timely information on emerging policy and legislation, provide policymakers contact information for communities to use as they choose, and they held a town hall meeting with Ohio Representative Cedric Denson. They also encouraged Green Umbrella to host a workshop on redistricting, which they did. And on July 30th, 30 people that attended the workshop submitted their maps to Ohio Citizens Redistricting Commission. And now people are contacting senators about Senate Bill 117. And just an added note, a local Girl Scout troop, which includes 2 youngest members of Faith Communities Go Green, submitted testimony asking for the repeal of Ohio House Bill 6. They created such a big wave at the State House that we heard about it from Senator Cecile Thomas. Next slide. The advocacy working group webinar, Win-Win Energy Policy for Ohio, How You Can Help, included presentations by policy experts from the nonpartisan Ohio Environmental Council. They gave us timely advice on how to advocate effectively for clean energy that was halted in Ohio House Bill 6. Next slide. The Education and Lifestyles Working Group engages us in actions to change our personal habits and make better choices. So next slide. This group's webinar on plastic taught us how to reduce single-use plastics, discover substitutes, and learn what can be recycled. You can view it on our webpage. Next slide. The facilities working group
Oh,
with religion
done.
and institutions to reduce their environmental impact. Next slide. So to do this, they hosted a webinar titled Ways to Lower Your Facilities Utility Bills. The experts representing Malink, Donovan Energy, Energility, and PACE taught us how to save money by reducing our building's carbon footprint, freeing up funds for our congregational's priorities. We learned about energy audits, renewable energies, choices, and financing for nonprofits. This webinar created great results. A church representative in Goshen that attended is now installing LED lights in their building. A representative from a church in College Hill decreased the size of their parking lot and added green space in its place. This followed a walkthrough audit. In a Deerfield church, administrators installed air sealing and insulation in their attic, and they had a lighting audit performed by Donovan Energy. Another church in Anderson Hills is planning to perform an energy audit as a result of this facilities webinar. Next slide. And this is supposed to be a motion slide, so my slides aren't working 100%. All these actions were accomplished in just 1 year. Congratulations and thank you to our enthusiastic and talented volunteers. Oh, there it goes. Yay, we've done so much, and I would just want you to know I'm so proud of all the volunteers who've done all this work. It's just been awesome. So now we're going to hear, next slide, from each working group leader who will share project ideas for the coming year. We are building momentum for the year 2. We will now hear from each leader who's going to tell us about their projects, but we welcome your comments and input and ideas and questions too. So please put them in the chat box at any time, and we will address them following the 4 presentations. Listen for programs and ideas that fit your interest and talent. We invite you to bring your enthusiasm to enhance the work we've begun. So now I'm going to turn this over to Becca, who is going to talk about our toolkit that her committee is focusing on. And so Becca, do you want to be in charge of saying next slide when you're done with your comment, since James is now in charge of the slides?
Sure.
And
yes. Hello, everyone, and really thank you so much for being with us here today to celebrate our 1-year anniversary. Each working group's volunteers are contributing to this FCGG, which is Faith Communities Go Green toolkit that will go on our website. The intent is to create a dynamic toolkit so that religious organizations can readily find information to assist them in making their faith community more environmentally sustainable. I will focus on education and action from our Education Lifestyles group. Our Education Lifestyles working group has created toolkit categories to provide materials for sustainable lifestyle practices. The categories are all faith tradition commonalities, recycle, reuse, repurpose, eliminate plastic and forever chemicals, food choices, and a resource library. Next slide, please. Our volunteers are developing many content items such as these. Recycling, where we want to change the recycling adage, when in doubt, throw it out, to when in doubt, find it out. Learn about the new nonprofit Cincinnati Recycle and Reuse Hub that accepts items that Rumpke does not. The next content item that we are developing for the toolkit is food waste reduction, where people will get informed about what are the different types of expiry dates. What does it mean by best by or use by? And they'll get some information on that. The next item we are developing is composting. Food waste in the landfill produces methane, which, if not captured responsibly, is a much more potent greenhouse gas than carbon dioxide. So set up a compost bin in your backyard. And the next item we are developing is food choices, where we advocate reduce your consumption of meat in your diet or just remove meat entirely from your diet. And the last item is energy and water saving tips for household appliances, where we will be providing a chart in the toolkit. And we will provide links in that chart to more information on the topics that will be listed in there. Next slide, please. We have 22 members. In the last 1 year, we began with a group of about 4 or 5 people around September of 2020. And today we are 22 members in our working group, which we call the Education and Lifestyles Working Group. And these members have divided themselves into subgroups, which are focusing on creating resource materials for our toolkit. For example, the movie and discussion subgroup is planning to begin showing movies later this year under a care for environment theme and have begun building a list of movies on this theme. The Eco Challenge subgroup initiates opportunities for the faith communities to participate in eco challenges. The webinars and workshops subgroup is refining a potential speaker and topic list that continues to evolve while it is continuing to plan for future webinars. The Greening and Gleaning subgroup plans to develop educational webinars and programs on greening and gleaning. For example, we plan to bring together volunteers who want to glean produce to benefit food pantries. The Cataloging Resources subgroup is planning an inventory of care for creation materials that are currently in use by our faith communities. And the toolkit subgroup is gathering as much information and resources as possible from all of these subgroups to put into the toolkit. The next slide, please. The People's Eco Challenge. It's coming up on October 6th. And the goal of Eco Challenge is to help us reduce our daily carbon footprint by helping us change our behavior towards a greener lifestyle in a fun, collaborative, and a mildly competitive environment. You can choose your level of involvement. You can sign up, for example, just a one-time activity on which you may spend maybe an hour in the entire period of the challenge, which is over here a 3-week period. Or you can sign up for a few daily activities and maybe some one-time activities. You get to choose whatever you're comfortable doing. So please register for this 3-week People's Eco Challenge that begins on October 6th. Later in this meeting, or as soon as I'm done speaking, I will post a link to the Eco Challenge in the chat. And if you can share that link with your friends, that would be great. I invite you all to join our Education Lifestyles Working Group and volunteer your time and ideas as and when you can. We do need more volunteers that are eager to help with climate action and caring for God's creations to join our FCGG impact team. Thank you so much. And now I will request Ariel to talk about the advocacy group. Thank you.
It is great to see you all, and I welcome you on behalf of the advocacy team. I'm going to provide you with some tools today, talk about how we work, and then list some specific bills we're working on now and how you can help. We need as many faith networks as possible. First, I'd like to talk about what are our goals and values. Drawing on the ethics of stewardship, justice, and compassion, which are central to all of our participating faiths, we advocate for policies to preserve the environment on which we all depend for survival. We also seek policies that foster equity. That means working to end the disproportionate impacts of price, pollution, and climate change on disadvantaged communities. We are working for policies that foster, first, clean energy and energy conservation. The goal is to reduce greenhouse gas emissions and reduce electric bills. Our top goal on that is the repeal of House Bill 6, which was passed in 2019 and really reversed Ohio's progress towards renewable energy and energy conservation. The other thing that we're working for is clean air, water, and soil. In addition to getting rid of the backward policies of House Bill 6, which fosters fossil fuels contributing to air pollution, we're fighting House Bill 282, which would allow the radioactive fracking brine Aqua Salina to be sold as a commodity without being subject to environmental oversight. So this is what we're advocating for. I want to put a couple of links in the chat for things that can help you learn how to advocate successfully. One, these resources come from the Ohio Environmental Council, which is a nonpartisan organization working for good environmental policy in the state of Ohio. This link is to their training series on environmental advocacy. The first program was on September 14th, but it was recorded, and there are 2 more sessions in October. These cover how a bill becomes law, what's in a law, and how to do advocacy in your backyard, for example, in your local community. So copy that link and sign up for that program and to learn how to advocate. The next thing is understanding the issues. Oh, don't change slides just yet, please. Thank you. Understanding the issues is very, very difficult. We have been tracking issues in Ohio, but Green Umbrella covers 3 states, Indiana, Ohio, and Kentucky. So we really could use some members who are following public policy in Indiana and Kentucky. What I'm going to tell you about today has to do with Ohio because that's what I know since I live in Cincinnati. A lot of environmental policies that go in a direction that we would not like to see in terms of environmental justice and environmental sustainability. A lot of these bills progress very, very fast through the Ohio legislature, and it really takes paid staff to follow what's going on in legislation. So the nonprofits that we're working with in Ohio recommend that you sign up for the emails from Innovation Ohio. These, the link is in the chat. Innovation Ohio publishes 3 or 4 alerts every week. They include notices of bills that have been introduced, information on hearings that are coming up in the state legislature, and a wonderful assortment of articles that appear in both not-for-profit and mainstream media in Ohio that are tracking these bills, both news reporting and editorials. So sign up for this email and you can stay abreast of what's happening in public policy, at least in the state of Ohio. Now, we need your help. And if you want to be part of our network and get the people in your faith community involved in advocacy, please write to me at this email address, arielmillerwriter@gmail.com, and I will put you on my email alert. our Faith Communities Go Green advocacy team meets on the second Wednesday of the month by Zoom at noon. Zoom at noon, second Wednesday of the month. And you can get on that distribution list by emailing me. Next slide, please. So I'd like to talk a little bit about how we work. We work collaboratively as an interfaith team. Every one of us is doing this as a volunteer, and we can't do it alone. We are partnering with 3 trusted Ohio nonprofits who have their finger on the pulse of Ohio policymakers. These are the Ohio Environmental Council, the Buckeye Environmental Network, and Ohio Citizen Action. All 3 of these organizations have a 501c3 educational arm and a 501c4 advocacy arm. We, though, are nonpartisan. We focus on policies and their likely impact on environment and people. We're not endorsing candidates. Finally, we agreed to start by developing a vision about what we are for. We are for sustainable clean energy, clean air and water and soil and air, water and soil, and environmental justice. We have begun developing statements of principle and vision that we can use to evaluate specific policy priorities. So these statements are an example of what our vision is, what we're trying to achieve. And then when we look at specific bills that come through, we can measure them against these statements, which are informed by our faiths. We are trying to be proactive rather than reactive. We are also trying to focus on opportunities for a win. We're trying to encourage our faith communities and our legislatures to take responsible actions. And when they do, we want to affirm them on our social media and their social media and thank them for the things that they're doing that are constructive. The first win we pushed for was fair electoral districts. You know that Ohio is in the middle of redistricting, and as Chris Tavener, an attorney with the Ohio Environmental Council, put it, we realized that a healthy environment depends on a healthy democracy. If we don't have competitive districts, if we have extreme partisan gerrymandering, then legislators pay attention to big money interests and they can ignore what voters have to say. And we really see that this is played out in a lot of our advocacy against House Bill 6. Despite the overwhelming advocacy for clean energy and for energy justice, a lot of terrible policies have passed through the legislature in defiance of what the voters' wishes are. So we've been trying to push for fair districts, and we've been very, very involved in monitoring the way that district lines are being drawn, both for state legislative districts and for Congress. This is obviously an unfolding drama and one that has brought us a great deal of frustration and sorrow so far, but we ask you to follow the news and to weigh in with your Ohio representative to ask for fair districts, which I think would liberate them all from the terror of being primaried by voters who are single issue and maybe not looking at the big picture of the common good. I think I'm ready for the next slide, please. Senate Bill 117, which was researched by Ted Berg of the Catholic Archdiocese of Cincinnati, is an example of an opportunity for a win-win. This bill would repeal the subsidies that House Bill 6 included for 2 dirty, obsolete coal-fired plants, one of them not even in Ohio. And I think that this subsidy was a bribe to get the investor-owned utilities to support House Bill 6. The subsidies would be repealed by this Senate bill and the money refunded to the ratepayers. So this advances energy justice by taking a burden off people who can't afford to pay it. It also would reduce a subsidy for a dirty, inefficient, and non-competitive form of energy generation, helping us move towards cleaner energy, reducing energy costs to ratepayers, and decreasing greenhouse gas emissions. I mentioned the bill, House Bill 282, which would be very disturbing. This would allow a product called aqua salina, which is made from fracking brine, to be sold as a commodity in Ohio and thus escape environmental regulation. This has been researched by Joanne Gerson, and we're happy to say that the Ohio Department of Transportation has announced they're no longer going to buy this product. They didn't say why. But the product is made from brine that is heavily contaminated with radon. So I think that putting millions of gallons of radioactive brine on highways and streets in Ohio would not be what any environmentalists will want to see. And we're encouraging you to contact your Ohio representative to advocate against House Bill 282. Finally, I want to announce that Representatives Casey Weinstein and Stephanie House introduced a bill called the Energy Jobs and Justice Act last week. It is called House Bill 429. Here is the link for this bill. And this bill is designed to restore the progress towards green energy that was destroyed by House Bill 6. It also would try to remove the barriers that low-income people face to accessing renewable energy, for example, by authorizing community solar. And this bill has its own website called the energyjobsandjustice.org. It is sponsored by Green Energy Ohio and Ohio Citizen Action and other groups. And it's very exciting to see a bill that fosters something that we all can advocate for. I'm really delighted to have you here today. Please, again, I want to put my email in the chat if you want to sign up to join our group. We need as many people as possible to be disseminating advocacy alerts through their networks. I think that if people of faith are testifying about their faith-based commitment to a planet Earth on which we can all live and our grandchildren can look forward to a good future, we might be able to provide some support for legislators that are getting too much pressure from the other direction and think that they're scared of progressive people, but might be able to listen to faith-based people without losing too much face preserved by paying attention to our faith. So that's, and now I'm happy to turn the webinar over to Ken Wright, who will talk about facilities.
Hi, this is Ken Wright for the facilities group. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, very good. I have my 1-year anniversary candle here too, accompanying me. And thank you for joining us. We have been talking, our group is oriented towards the actual buildings, facilities that we worship in, and trying to make them greener, less polluting and less costly to operate. So one of the things that we certainly advocate is getting an energy audit, taking charge of what energy you use, knowing what energy you use, and finding out how you can improve it. There are two ways of doing this. One is by a commercial energy audit, and then the other method is by doing this yourself. And there's several resources out on the web for doing audits yourself, and I encourage you to take a look at that. We'll put some links up. We're putting together this toolkit that Becca mentioned, and in there will be some links to how to do an energy audit yourself, as well as some guides about how to hire an energy auditor. Let's go to the next slide. There are also lots of denominational resources that you should take a look at search for and find. I know of several that the Catholic Church, Presbyterians, the United Church of Christ, and the Episcopalians, for instance, have references to how to do this and tools. And also, in some cases, they actually have funding either in the form of grants or loans. So you need to look around, and there's really good material up on the web for various denominations. And I would encourage you not just to stick to your own, but look around and see what other faiths are doing, because there's lots of good tools up there. Okay, let's go to the next slide. Now, we've been working on this for the coming year, and we need your help and to make these happen. So please join us and do that. We have a couple webinars we're working on. We think we may be able to get Jerry Lawson at the EPA to come and do a webinar for us about EPA's programs and congregations. EPA has been working with congregations for quite a long time, and they have some excellent resources on that. He's a very good speaker. We also think that we may be able to put together a webinar on offset programs. In other words, for things that you cannot fix or improve, there are other ways of paying groups who are doing green work to help them do that, and that you can contribute money then, as opposed to trying to things that you can't tackle yourself. We also would like to set up houses of worship that have done a lot of good work in the area. It's really helpful to be able to go and see and do this directly at what they've done and talk with the people there who have done it. We're talking with a couple of houses of worship in the area to set this up. It's possible that this will be online, but it's also possible that it's going to be a live tour. So just stay tuned, and we will let you know how that's working, how we can do that. And finally, we want to recognize that there are quite a number of houses of worship in the area have really done some good work already, and we think it's important to recognize that. So we're going to put together a recognition program for that. So we encourage you to join us and help make these happen. And I want to just make a plug here for every that's listening. If you don't already have a green team or something of that nature, whatever you call it, please form one, because that's the way you get work done. It's, a lone wolf person is not as effective as having a group. It's really a good psychological support, and you have more political influence in your governing body and with other people in the congregation. And you can do more work together than you can singly. So really the first step you need to take in any of this work is to get a group of people together who are dedicated and interested and excited about greening your congregation. And there are lots of tools, and talk to us and we can help you get going on that. So in order to talk a little bit more about this, I'm going to turn you over to CJ, and she's going to tell us about green teams and how to form them in more detail. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ken. And last spring, we sent out a survey to approximately 150 people representing about 50 different congregations. And we had a response rate of 33 congregations, and they indicated that they had formed a green team, or in some cases, what they called a creation care group. Others indicated they would like suggestions on how to be greener houses of worship. So we met and chose to do several different things. One was we compiled a list of resources which will appear in our toolkit on how to start a green team. And we looked up resources that were both interfaith as well as denominational in the Catholic, Lutheran, United Church of Christ, Presbyterian traditions. If you know of others, we are always happy to add to this list. It is certainly not a finished product. The other thing we chose to do is to host a webinar. So we sent an invitation to those 33 people who had answered, 33 congregations who had answered our initial survey or who had returned it. and asked if any of them would be willing to help other congregations through a webinar to learn how to form a green team. And so we will be hosting a green team webinar, or how to form a green team webinar, on November 15th from 7 to 8:30 p.m. And we have people from a number of different traditions who are going to be contributing to that. Doug Bell from the Citizens Climate Lobby is going to begin by doing an overview of some of the steps it might take to form a green team. But we felt it was really important for people to hear also from people who were working with this on the ground. So we asked them to answer 3 different questions very succinctly, but what are the steps that they took to start their green team? What kind of initiatives have their green teams started? And what kind of advice would they give to those who would like to form a green team in their own house of worship? And even just at our initial meeting, where those who have responded met together, we learned from each other. And so we felt it would be really valuable to get as many people as we can to participate in this webinar and begin to think about how they might do that in their own congregations. So what we're going to ask you to do then is to watch for registration details via email, as well as on our website. So I'm now going to turn this over to James.
There I am, unmuted. So what we want to do now, I'm gonna go off this, quit sharing and get everybody's faces back up. There we are. I don't know if we have any questions in the Q&A, but if somebody has a question or a comment, just sort of raise your hand. I'll call on you and let you weigh in, and we could just make it vocal instead of trying to go through. We've got so many things in chat. It would be hard to sort of run through them all. So anyway, just inviting comments and or questions for any of the groups or for anybody that you see on the screen. Ted, is that, or I saw your finger.
No.
That was just your finger, okay. Well, just, I mean, following up on some of the great comments made by the working group leaders and by Joanne, is that one of the things that we really believe is that engaging the faith communities in proactive in all sorts of activities relative to climate change can have systemic effects throughout the whole community, because the people that are in our faith communities are in our businesses, they're in our government, they're threaded throughout our community. If we can begin to get them to be proactive within their faith communities, they'll take that proactivity back out into their work life and into their professional lives, and really begin to live the faith tradition and the values that they bring from whatever denomination or whatever tradition they come from. One of the things that when we founded the Parliament of the World's Religions back in the late 80s and early 90s, is that we found that there's an amazing set of values that is consistent across all religions. The sort of golden rule. One of the ones that has emerged in recent years is care for creation, which we sometimes call that within the Christian tradition, or a kind of ecological consciousness, or in the desire and need to be involved in compassion, not just for other human beings, but for the nature around us. So that, for example, within the Festival of Faiths, one of the things that we talk about there is compassion through action. Well, compassion through action and justice need not only be directed towards other individuals, but human beings, but also towards nature. And we also know that if we improve the environment and the natural settings around us, we're also improving our lives. I mean, we're all dependent upon that for our lives. and it is there for us to enjoy. Green Umbrella just did the Great Outdoor Weekend, getting people out into nature. We need to get our children out into nature. We need to get out into nature, but we also need to protect it in order to do that. So any other comments? Honest, I don't know if you have any comments on advocacy. You've been very active on that committee, or questions that people might have at this point.
Well, I just want to say this is that I'm the parent of 2 of the Girl Scouts who did that letter to Cecil Thomas. And I just, they would have been here today. Actually, they really wanted to, but we had a pre-planned activity with their schooling network out at an apple farm. They're apple picking at a farm, and so they could be here. Yeah, but I told them it was going to be recorded so they could see it. But they, my impression, and this is not unique to my kids or their Girl Scout troop, I hear it from lots of places. There is a tremendous energy coming from very young people who are even not at the teenager stage, but of course, certainly teenagers, but before that. And it strikes me that faith communities also have a remarkable intergenerational connection too. There's often parents are involved in some way or other, and maybe this channeling that energy and bringing people together in that way can be a real boost. I know it's certainly, aside from warming our heart to see the Girl Scouts doing this, I think it makes a big difference. It's kind of, a legislative official receiving a letter from somebody who basically the future is in the hands of this official. This is a very impactful thing, not to mention the fact that they will be voting in a few years and continue to do so, so yeah.
Thank you. Joanne? Unmute. You're muted.
Susan Voigt, maybe you can share how are you going to approach or wanting to approach bringing young people? Is Susan still with us?
Yes.
Yes, I am. Actually, I've handed that off to some other people on my team, but because one of the persons that is connected with not only Green Umbrella, but Pachamama Alliance is a teacher at a local high school in Cincinnati. And he is very interested in involving his own students interfaith-wise in, connecting with students of other faiths around the issue of the environment. It's Bob Benici is his name. And if you contact me, I can give you his contact information.
And I hope I'm not muted. Can you hear me?
We can.
At our congregation at Mount Auburn Presbyterian Church, we celebrated creation care for the whole month of September. And we had every worship was focused on that. And one of the worship services, we had invited 5 young adults from UKirk, the campus ministry at UC, to come tell us what they thought was going on in climate change and how their generation was responding to it. And I just mentioned that as another way that we can each engage young adults in what we're doing and have their energy and their insight involved in it.
And just adding to that in terms of one of the things we know if we look at trends is that people are less and less engaged with our churches, and it's been a pattern that we've seen, in particularly young people. We really believe having the churches focusing on the environment and on the challenges of climate change is a way to bring young people back into the church because and into our congregations, because they'll see them as being more relevant in terms of their own values and the things that they're involved in. And,
yeah, are there any groups here in addition to what Susan and Pat have said that you've done in your congregation that you can tell us about that is a direction that works?
I want to shout out Simone here because she has a program at several congregations that focuses on sustainability with young people. And I think it's a great program. And my daughter was able to work as a tutor for the program this past year. And my sister obviously has been very involved in it too. But just wanted to throw that out there. And then before I turn it over to Simone, I know this weekend with Great Outdoor Weekend, we had Aiken High School is starting an agriculture program. And they started it this school year, and they have all kinds of resources. They were one of our Great Outdoor Weekend sites. They're turning their campus, basically, they have a trail system on the campus. They will have a working farm basically on their campus. They have an orchard. So their students are doing a lot of work there. And I think that that could be an opportunity to partner. And then finally, my daughter's school, St. Ursula, does a lot of work around sustainability on their campus. And I think it might be worth it. Obviously, they're a religious school, to connect with some of the programming that they have there.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Justin, do you know if any of the Jewish schools are doing anything on sustainability that you could talk about?
I think there are some local, like school gardening type of programs going on, but I can definitely check in. I know some of our congregations are deeply involved in this work.
Yeah.
Thank you, Justin.
Other comments or questions? I see we're almost at the end of our time anyway, so we timed it pretty perfectly. Joanne, you want to make some final comments? And
Well,
I just want to add my thanks to not only everybody that's attended here, but the people that have. When you think of where we started in a year with just a conversation of a few people, and you've seen the list of the projects that we have done and the ones we have in mind, I think that we are deservedly proud of what we've done, but we still have a lot of work to do. And so if you know people that might be interested in helping us, please reach out to them and let them know how they can find out about us. I also want to recognize the work of Green Umbrella generally that they do in the community, and for having supported this effort for the last year, the work that Rashida has done being the liaison between us and the group, which I know often Rashida has put you one more level over your capacity, which was already over capacity before you took us on. But we really do appreciate the work and the sharing and everything that you've done with and for us.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Joanne.
Yeah, no, I can't begin to thank Rashida enough, and all the volunteers. It's just been absolutely awesome. The energy and exciting enthusiasm and talent, just all the things and the ideas that they generate and then follow through and say, well, let's make this happen. It's important. We're here because we don't want to see the climate become worse. We want to see our planet being passed down for the next generation, be a comfortable and safe place for them to live. And research has shown time and again that the best place to make that happen is within the faith communities. And so one of our goals this year is to reach out to more congregations and get more congregations not only involved in Faith Communities Go Green, but to have them each have their own green team so that they can influence members of their own congregation to live more sustainably, to bring environmental justice issues to the fore, and really just generally to make a difference. So tell your friends. I see a few new faces. I want to see more new faces because that's how we're going to grow. So it's important work, and we're glad you're here. And thank you. And we're at www.greenumbrella.org/faith.